Hey, this is Gene Apologetics. I'm going to do my response to criticism from Jonathan Hill. I know I said that I wouldn't be doing any videos for a bit, so there's not going to be any streaming, but I didn't want this one to wait because it merits a good response. I've timestamped the most relevant points of contention with my responses directed at Jonathan himself. At minute 250, my response is, a Latinizer is not someone who just quotes Latin saints. They may not quote a single Latin saint. It is someone who is assumed to be too Latin by the semi-Pelagian strain of some online Orthodox Christian converts, who consider any semblance of similitude with the pre-schism West to be anathema. Quote Latinizer, end quote, is not an insult, at least the way in which I use it, though I cannot speak for the Romanidian spinal fluid possessors online who may use this term differently. Some of you may be shocked that Mr. Hill and I are even having a disagreement, because of all the people that are in the Orthodox camp, I would not be the person who would actually disagree with him on a lot of the way that he elucidates theology. So really, this is just the fault of that stream being so rushed and quick, which I'll explain further in a moment, that we couldn't properly delve into any of these topics, and it was misconstrued as me using the term, quote, Latinizer as some kind of an insult, when that actually wasn't the case, because many people would refer to me as a Latinizer for some of the ways in which I explained things. At minute 320, it is not about who quotes Augustine the most. It's merely about the emphasis he plays in theological explanations. There's nothing wrong with quoting him. It is not an accusation of Catholicism or heresy. It is a comparison between real orthodoxy and semi-Pelagianism. At minute 5, it is an imprecise term to distinguish people based on a few controversial subjects online. There is no such thing as a Latinizer Orthodox Church or rigorist Orthodox Church. The differences only exist in online debate formats on Twitter and other social medias. Moving on to another topic. At minute 750, quote, he did not take the entire specific nature. Okay, and all I am doing is pointing out that this is the belief you follow and have expressed online. I never said or meant that you, Jonathan, do not believe in any universals at all, period, but that you deny that there is a singular universal nature that Christ could jump into or tap into like some kind of a bubble and raise humanity that way. Jesus Christ did not become the entire human species, and this is exactly what I was intending to state regarding your elucidation of this matter. Okay? We are not copies of a divine human nature in the upper realm or anything. We are partakers of this category of ontology, the category of man. So we are specifically human beings. I'm one specific human being. He and anyone else watching this is another specific human being that cannot be compared to the formulation used for the divine essence pertaining to the three persons of the Holy Trinity. At minute 820, I do understand it. Actually, since this is one of the points of contention between Oriental theology and the manner in which some Eastern Orthodox explain universals theologically or philosophically, again, this is mainly people online who may not know all the terms that they're using, and obviously the real Eastern Orthodox position is not synonymous with the Oriental Orthodox theology either. We are complete human beings who are specific examples of the species or category of ontology called humanity. I'm not a slice or a portion of the 8 billion humans, nor am I the whole of the human race in a single person. That is why the universal concerning humanity is not comparable to the shared divine essence between the members of the Godhead, which is why the persons of the Trinity are not, as you have said, members of some kind of species, but rather share in the numerically one divine nature, unlike human nature, which is specifically one. I've absolutely no disagreement with that. I'm aware of the distinction. My live streams are usually very fast-paced, by the way. They're crowded. I intentionally water down very complex terms or long-winded explanations so that we can just move on to the question period of the presentation, which is actually one of the reasons I'm ceasing the call-in shows on my channel, since there's not really enough time to devote to a singular topic, unfortunately. At minute 9:35, indeed where specified individuals, the three persons of the Holy Trinity are not, as there is only numerically one divine nature and hence one God. I do understand the topic just fine, since I even commented on one of your posts about this exact subject, which he screenshots part of that and later the video. I'll admit that the topic was not handled in the depth that it deserves during that stream of mine. At minute 11:30, it is not actually done. That's the theological formulation of Eastern Trinitarianism, yes, but that sentence by itself does not answer the question, who or what is God, which again you mentioned a little later. By strict Monarchianism, I'm primarily speaking of Dr. Bo Branson's compilations on who is God, which is that he presents the identity of the, quote, one true God to be the hypostasis of the Father. Specifically, he denies that the one true God as a title belongs to the divine essence or each person of the Trinity, but rather to the Father as a person, being the origin or cause of the Son and the Holy Spirit and the uncaused cause. I'm not an official student of his, merely have taken some appreciation to the way in which he communicates his formula on this matter. You can be monarchian without holding to Dr. Branson's formulation, which many Orthodox do not. That's fine. The operative word here is strict in strict monarchianism, primarily refers to the emphasis on the Father as the one God/one source, which I posted about on X, citing St. Basil the Great in Against Sabellians, Anomians, and others, and St. Gregory Nazianzen, Oration 23, and St. Athanasius de Synodus, Part 2, Sections 3 and 18. Pneumatomachans, actually, is for St. Basil the Great. I didn't write that one down. At minute 12:11, I do not relegate the Son to a secondary cause, but merely emphasize that the Son, being the Creator, derives his divinity from his Father, and not from thin air, nor is the Son the begetter of the Father's person. John 1:3 is clear that all things came into being through him, that is, the Son. The New Testament's formula for explaining creation is that creation is made by the Father, through the Son, with the Holy Spirit. This does not negate that the Son is responsible. It does not negate that the Son is responsible for creation, only that the New Testament's formulation of the Godhead's acts of creation, creating the cosmos, is using this language. It's not saying the Son didn't create. It is saying the language is usually through, by, through, and with. That is the integration of the three persons. Most of what you and I are disagreeing on is probably just linguistics and emphasis, and maybe poorly explained things during the rush nature of that stream. At minute 14:45, I agree that there is one divinity, and this is an equal explanation of why there is only one God, as already discussed in the sections of specific versus numerical nature regarding humanity and the Godhead, respectively. The Father being the focal point of the one true God does not negate the divinity or godliness of the Son or the Holy Spirit, but merely informs us of the origin of that divinity being in the person of the Father. The Son and the Holy Spirit do not possess a lesser amount of divine essence, or anything of that matter, and the Son is actually called not only Theos, which is the generic word for God/divine in the Bible, but also Ho Theos, in the Epistle to the Hebrews, which I have mentioned in multiple scenarios, and John 20:28. At 16:20, I will admit that you are the first person to pivot this distinction, that the reason there is one God, that's one topic, and what is the one true God are two different questions. So I'll admit I never looked at it in that manner. The primary reason that I agree with aspects of Dr. Branson's explanation is merely that it happens to mirror the language of the New Testament. The Gospels frequently refer to God as a person, almost always the Father, and the Son, Jesus Christ, the Word, as another person, using the word God as a placeholder for the Father. The writers of the Gospel and the Acts of the Apostles take for granted that we, the readers, are aware that the Father is the one being referred to when they say the word God, or Theos, or Ho Theos. Now, the Son is also called God, but compared to how often the Father is equated with the word God, it is significantly less. Hence the emphasis on the Father, not in terms of metaphysical nature, but in terms of linguistic emphasis. At minute 17, I never said that you believed in penal substitutionary atonement or satisfaction. I never said that. Believing in St. Augustine's theology, or even just portions of it, is not me accusing you or anybody else of being a secret Catholic or being lesser as an Orthodox Christian, as he is a saint in the East as well as the West. A, quote, Latinizer, although this term has now lost all meaning, is merely one such as Orthodox Ensign on Twitter, who quotes Eastern theologians who agree with much of what the semi-Pelagians would think is Latin theology. This is the entire point of the term Latinizer, at least the way I used it in my video. It does not refer to someone who quotes only Latin theologians. They may not quote a single Latin theologian. It refers to one who is assumed to be a Latin theologian by the semi-Pelagian strain of Orthodox Christians on the internet, many of them devotees of Romanidian thought. So I'm co-opting the insult that they're wielding at other people without agreeing with them wielding it. I'm co-opting that term. So Latinizer is not always a bad word in the way that I've used it. At minute 17:48, you say, Jonathan, regarding the judgment of the unbaptized, we do not know. Okay, great. Anyone who's seen my channel knows where this is going. One of the focal points of my channel is to stress that the Orthodox East is perfectly comfortable not knowing the answer to everything. It's a scholastic Middle Age era Latin phenomenon to desire an exact answer to every nagging question we may have. And I would say that's a real Latinization. Really being a Latinizer is being a scholastic Aristotelian. Not people like Hill or anybody else who just happen to not be semi-Pelagian. That's not being a real Latinizer. Okay, so if you're going to use Latinizer as an insult in derogatory form, it would be being a scholastic Aristotelian. That's real Latinized scholasticism. That's what the East disagrees with the most on. Anyway, I frequently mock people who attempt to ask unfalsifiable questions such as, what did God do before creation? Or, what did the sun look like before he became a man? This latter question was asked by a Muslimah who desired to debate me in a more recent stream on the topic of the Quran. Anyone who has seen an average stream of mine will tell you that this is one of the things I stress the most to all who study theology, especially from the orthodox perspective. We do not know, and that's perfectly fine. We're not Merkabah mystics. Admitted in 1805, case in point, we cannot claim to have an explanation for a question God did not answer. As Orthodox Christians, one cannot say whether the unbaptized go to heaven or hell. It's not a judgment that an Orthodox Christian can make. Adminutes 1835 to 1920. I also agree. We are not without the effect of the punishment, otherwise baptism has no justification, or it makes little sense. Adminute 1930. If we did not have to deal with the ramifications of sin, then, as you have said, we would not toil the earth, nor would have physical imperfections. As I said in another stream titled, We Live in an Old Testament World. The reality of the earth has not changed in such a way that human beings are immaterial or angelic, immune to the causes of sin and death, or that the nations are immune to the causes of war and hatreds which persist to this day. Even though neither Jonathan nor myself time-traveled to the Garden of Eden, we still have to bear the punishment and the state of reality brought on by those events. I do not see anything to disagree with here at minute 20. This strange rejection of this punishment is also not biblical. It says God literally does say in Exodus and some other places that he will punish the sons and daughters for the iniquity of their forefathers. So I don't know how you can walk away from that and say, yeah, God doesn't punish people. He doesn't punish people for stuff they didn't do. Right here, he will punish the sons and daughters for the iniquity of their forefathers. These are very plain verses. Whether you're reading English, Hebrew, or Greek, they're not ambiguous at all. I do not understand how some people can read the Bible and still walk away thinking that the concept of punishment is pagan or ridiculous. So that's it. That's my response to Mr. Jonathan Hill's response. I think the only reason he made a response, if I can assume, is probably because of the poor nature of the stream and that we kind of glossed over a bunch of topics that I just took for granted and assumed the audience was aware I was being a little tongue-in-cheek and not actually using them in a derogatory manner. Again, what a quote Latinizer is on the internet is usually just somebody who holds to pretty normal traditional orthodoxy, but is called a Latinizer by a semi-Pelagian who denies original sin, denies the effects of sin, denies that we live in a world of sin, and thinks anything even related to that is, quote, Augustinian, evil, Latinized theology. Again, I'll repeat, I think a true Latinizer would be an Orthodox who is like a middle-aged Aristotelian scholastic. If you're a Thomist, you're acting like a Thomist, that's real Latinizing, not looking at St. Augustine. Anyway, that's about that. I'll be back in a month or two.